So it's time to paint some more non-metallic metals onto our miniature. I recently did a PDF of the backpacks non-metallic metals. So I'm gonna do a small video of the non-metallic metals I painted for the small details that hanging off his cloak here. And I'm first going to sketch out, as I did in the PDF, all the areas that I want to be more hit by light. The procedure here is a little bit different, since I couldn't really get a good balance in some of the areas. I had to go back a little bit more with the colors and resketch some light and repaint some of the areas. And those are practices that are common with smaller details of non-metallic metals many of the times. And non-metallic metal isn't my everyday painting. I do use quite a lot of the true metallic metals as well. So I kind of switch between the both of them. So let's keep sketching out our non-metallic metals, and I'm gonna use some ivory this time and paint smaller light points onto our previously painted neutral gray points. So when doing this, I have more confidence where I know where the light to hit and how to paint things from here on. It's kind of hard to do non-metallic metals without doing a sketch first. You can do it without a sketch, of course. It just demands some practice and that you being used to painting non-metallic metals as well. So experience will of course give you faster and better painting techniques when doing these kind of paint jobs. So I'm gonna bring some more color into the metals. So therefore I'm going to do a small little overlay with our dark sea blue here. And I'm trying not to cover too much of the sketch with this, because I still want to see the sketch to know where I'm going with all the other colors. But I still want to stain them a little bit with the dark sea blue to just get that color difference in there. Brings a little bit more life into the metals. I am in later stages. I don't think I do this in this video, but I will show it later on when I paint the hammer. I'm going to paint in some more earthy reflections in there, because I want the surroundings to also fit into the metals as well. Many of these things I think is better to do when the model is finished, because then you know where all the colors are and what should reflect what. I know that the skull on his leg should reflect the yellow armor some more. So I'm gonna go in here and mix a little bit of that dark sea blue into some neutral gray. I'm slowly going to smooth up those sharp edges from the sketching we did earlier. And this can be quite hard when the surface is this small, so use a very small brush for this. And a decent amount of water. You don't want the paint to be loose or too thick here. And wipe it off on some piece of paper before painting as well, so you get the right amount of paint onto your brush. And also, regarding where I put all my light points, I really didn't have any kind of particular plan for this. I just know that the light is coming a bit from above, and that it should reflect on the top of the curves, and depending on the angle of flat surfaces, that it should reflect on the bottom of those and on the tip of details and such. So it's kind of difficult to explain really how I think here, because I just think it's like I think the light just hits the edges and the top and the end of things. So trying to spread them evenly between each other as well. It's much easier to explain how light bounces onto more boring shapes like round balls and such. The skull, for example, is spherical, so it naturally gets a light point on top of its forehead, because it's a spherical shape. So now mixing some neutral gray with some ivory. I'm going to paint out some of that light that we lost in previous stages. So kind of the same technique here as I did in the previous one, where I painted a neutral gray to close the gaps. Now I'm going to sort of close out some of the darkness with some more brighter paint. I think I got a bit too much of this in the stage, so I went back in the later stages to correct this. And that's something that can be hard with small details like this. It's to get the right amount of balance between the shade and light in all these little small details. I could have made this a lot more simpler than I did, but it's nice to show off some really spread out light point painting for the non-metallic metals in these small details as well. So as I did mention before, I tried to create a spherical shape onto the forehead of the skull, and this is in order to reflect the light from a spherical shape's point of view, and of course from the direction of the light source. So I try to highlight the rest of the details in the from the same direction as I think the original light is coming from, so they match each other. And this will be the top and ends of the various small details here, like the eye socket and the nose and the base of the maxilla for the teeth, little upper jaw. So here I start creating some light points, but I think this was the stage I started too early, because I needed to even out some of the details a bit more, I think. It can be quite hard to recognize what you're doing when you're painting under a camera, since you cannot get your head too close to the miniature. Still a decent distance, of course, so I can still see what I'm doing, but it's easy to lose focus a little bit when you have a camera hanging in front of your face. So bear with me here a little bit. But this is also something that if you're new to this, you might have to go back and resketch some of the things that you do, and reshade and re-highlight, things like that, until you get the good balance. So bringing a little bit more of that dark sea blue to get some more of that blue light. Just a little bit, not too much here. So I'm gonna even out some of the light and dark with a mid-tone of the neutral gray. The neutral gray, I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but the neutral gray acts as the middle color for all the other colors. So this will be the paint that is either dark or light. It serves as a middleman, a bridge for the other paints to combine and blend in together more easily. Gonna paint with some ivory, and this will be mixed with a little bit of that neutral gray. Just gonna slowly build up that light spot on the skull's forehead again, because I lost it in the previous process. And that's something that can happen, that you lose some of your light sometimes, so you have to paint it out again. So keep painting out that middle light with the neutral gray onto the rest of the details. So now we can finally add some of our final light highlight spots to the more exposed areas. You can see that it nicely flows in with the skull shape here. I think I could have worked a little bit more on the cross that hangs down from his cloak, but I want to move on to other details, because I could have been stuck with that details for hours to come. So I think it's better to focus on the other metal details a bit more, and maybe I go back to this later on and balance out the light and dark a little bit more. This is a very minor thing that annoys me, so it really isn't is that much of a problem. So yeah. So as I mentioned before, I talked about the Rhinoxide, and I actually did go in there and painted out some Rhinoxide, which I think it was good that I did, because I wanted to show that as well. Because in order to bring some more life into this, we want to reflect the ground, and the ground I plan to be a sort of a brown color of some sort. I haven't really figured it out yet. And I will add other colors to the metals in case I change my mind. But I'm planning a brown ground, so I'm going to add a little bit of the brown reflections onto the metals, and these I will add into the more shaded areas where the brown paints doesn't become that visible, because I just want a hint of it. I don't want it to color all the metals and such. But when in the later stages, when the later stages comes and the model is looking to be finished, I will add some more transparent colors to the metals, so that they reflect on the brighter surfaces a little bit more as well. This brown is just to give a little bit more life onto our metals, because metals reflects a lot of colors naturally, so there will be more than just the blue and grays in there, and that will be reflected with the brown paints here. just going to correct some of the mistakes and balance out the colors a little bit more here in the last couple of minutes. But I hope you guys enjoyed this non-metallic metal tutorial, and I'll make another one for the hammer. I think that would be an interesting object to show on camera, and I will implement a lot more colors into that one as well, since I'm going to reflect some of the yellow and other stuff in there a bit more. Also, the hammer is going to have a glow to it. I plan on having a glow to it at least, so we can have some experimental paint jobs with glowing paints onto the metallics as well. Anyway, enough rambling. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.